Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Swiss, and what a Thursday, man. Had a monster, went 6-1 on the ticket. I also tailed toast Seattle bet, so I personally went 7-1 in bet. Well, actually, I went 7-2 because I bet the Yankees, but didn't put it on the ticket. The ticket went 6-1 though. Felt great. Top ends went 2-0. Let's keep that positive momentum going into Friday, best baseball day of the week. 15 games. Let's go.
Welcome to the Swiss. The Swiss. Hey, get the Swiss.
First up, Toronto on the road in Detroit. The King is back. Alek Manoah returns to the big leagues. He's pitching against Alex Faedo. Toronto opens up a slight favorites here, -124. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and no lean through 5 innings. We got a 2-2 tie through 5. Final score 4-3 Detroit. So the model's giving a lean on the Tigers here. Well, like I said, Manoah's back. And I mean, obviously, we know this dude's production was absolute trash. There's a reason he got sent down to the minor leagues. He was really struggling. Here are the numbers from his last 7 starts before getting designated for assignment. 8.10 ERA, 2.18 whip, 6.59 expected FIP. So he wasn't even getting unlucky. He was just straight up getting shelled. Then he goes to the minor leagues, and it got even more hilarious for a minute. He made his first start in the minor leagues and got absolutely shelled in the minors. 2 2/3 innings pitched, 10 hits, 11 runs in the minor leagues. He did bounce back and pitch a good game against the Portland Sea Dogs. So let's give him a little credit for that one. He did pitch a good one in his final minor league start. Now, here's the thing. It's not completely crazy to say a pitcher can be absolutely terrible, go down to the minor leagues, then come back and pitch well. In fact, we see that happen all the time. We've seen it happen a couple times this year already. So I don't think we could just blindly fade Manoah here like we were doing back in May. And I mean, look at the Tigers' recent numbers against right-handed pitching. This is pretty terrible. Detroit's bats have shown some signs of life against lefties, not so much against righties. In the last 14 days, Tigers are 29th in OPS, 28th in WRC+. Here's the thing, though. Those numbers look terrible, but if you actually look at the last 6 righty starters to pitch against the Tigers, sure, they got a couple no-name Oakland pitchers throwing 3-inning starts in there, but this Tigers team scored 3 on Pablo Lopez, 3 on Bailey Ober, 8 on Connor Seabold. So yeah, maybe the overall numbers aren't good, but the Tigers have gotten to a few righty starters recently. And another area where I think there might be some sneaky value on Detroit is the bullpen. Now, if you look at the straight-up bullpen comparison, it looks like Toronto has the huge edge, but the Tigers' expected FIP is significantly better than the rest of their numbers. Indicate that they've actually performed at a higher level than you'd think recently. And if you rewind back 2 or 3 weeks, the Tigers bullpen was pretty good. So I wouldn't sleep on this Tigers bullpen. I wouldn't call it an advantage for Toronto at all. And then you add on the fact that it's a bad spot for Toronto. They just played a doubleheader yesterday against the White Sox. Immediately had to hop on a flight to Detroit. So yeah, add on the fact that it's a bad spot, and I'm leaning Tigers money line here. It's not going to be a huge bet, but I'm going to take Detroit money line. Next game, Phillies at Marlins. Zach Wheeler pitching against Sandy Alcantara. Phillies opened up as -130 favorites here on the road. Total opens up all the way down at 7, low total. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a slight lean on Philadelphia here. 3-2 Phillies after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 Phillies. So I know Zach Wheeler's had a couple rough looking outings in a row here on paper. But look at this chart. Look at the FIP and expected FIP numbers. That's the white and blue lines. Both significantly lower than his earned runs numbers. I'm not going to let those 2 starts scare me off Zach Wheeler here. Here are some Zach Wheeler numbers against the Marlins since 2020. He's made 9 starts in that span, and he's got solid looking numbers. 2.95 ERA, 2.71 FIP. By all accounts, Zach Wheeler has no issues dealing with these Marlins bats. That being said, for whatever reason, and check this out, this is weird, all of Wheeler's starts against the Marlins are at home. Check this out. Of his last 11 starts against the Marlins, only 1 has been on the road in Miami. It was last April 2022. Want to know how that game went? He got completely smoked. Just 3 innings, 8 hits, 3 walks, 7 earned runs. Now, I'm not going to stress over a bad start in April of 2022. That being said, it's the only start he's made on the road in Miami against the Marlins since 2018. And historically, Zach Wheeler's a guy that you trust more so at home than on the road. So it does fit that narrative, but look at Zach Wheeler's last 6 road starts on this chart here. There's really only one bad one. June 2nd at Washington. He was great in Arizona. He was great in Atlanta. I think we could trust Zach Wheeler to throw a good game here in Miami. Also, the Marlins lineup on paper really shouldn't scare anybody, especially if you're a righty starter. Here are the numbers in the last 14 days, and they're not completely terrible. 20th in OPS, 14th in WRC+. That being said, did you guys see what the Marlins lineup did against Jack Flaherty last night? Absolutely nothing. On the other side, we got Sandy Alcantara pitching, and you know things are getting bad for Sandy when even his home numbers are starting to look bad. Here are his numbers from his last 5 starts at home. 6.27 ERA is obviously terrible. Now, the 3.62 FIP and the 4.38 expected FIP indicate that he's had some bad luck, and there should be some positive regression coming for this guy. But we've been saying that all year, and it's just not coming. He continues to struggle. And you would think, if you look at Sandy's recent numbers against the Phillies, that they would be good. I mean, he won the Cy Young last year, but that's not the case. Here are the numbers from his last 4 starts against the Phillies. 6.57 ERA, 1.50 WHIP. 3 of these starts were last year in his Cy Young year. So Sandy was struggling with this Phillies lineup last year, even before he fell off. Pains me to do it, but I gotta fade Sandy at home here. I'm on the Phillies. It's probably gonna be super public. Actually, the Marlins have been good, so it might not be public. I'm interested to see where the action comes in on that one. I'm on the Phillies, though. Next game. Braves at Rays. Good game here. We got Charlie Morton pitching against Tyler Glass now. Braves open up as very slight road favorites here, but this line's moved like 25 cents already. Braves are dogs right now. But anyway, they opened up at -115. Total opens up at 7.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got 5-3 Braves after 5 innings. Final score 7-5 Braves. So if you've been betting baseball for the last few years, you know that Charlie Morton on the road is a definite fade candidate. However, this year really hasn't been the same story. You can see his ERA on the road is sitting at a nice 3.06 with a 2.67 FIP and a 4.03 expected FIP. All solid numbers. So Charlie Morton actually having a really nice season on the road. And to help Charlie Morton's case in this spot, this Tampa lineup really has never seen him before, despite him being a veteran. And the little they have seen of him hasn't been productive at all. The Rays bats lifetime are just 2 of 14 off Charlie Morton. Doesn't give me a ton of confidence. Not to mention, Tampa's bats really haven't been the same recently. Look at their numbers against right-handed pitching in the last 7 days compared to their numbers on the full season. I mean, sure, 15th in OPS, 15th in WRC plus may not seem bad, but this team is getting priced like the best team in baseball, so 15th is not good if you're sitting at that price. But before we just go ahead and fade this Rays lineup, we first got to take a look at the starters they've seen, because there's some monsters in here. Taijuan Walker, Aaron Nola, Louis Castillo, George Kirby, and they produced against a couple of those, so do have to take into account that they have seen a rough stretch of righty starters recently. Now let's take a look at Tyler Glass now, and maybe at first glance at his home away splits, you might not like that 5.03 ERA at home, but look at all the underlying numbers here. Sure, the ERA at home is worse than on the road, but the WHIP's better, the FIP's better, and the expected FIP is better as well. So this is a classic case of a pitcher having some bad luck in those starts. Also, just like Charlie Morton, the Braves lineup really isn't too familiar with Glass now. Atlanta's lineup lifetime is just 5 of 26 off him. That's a 192 average with a 622 OPS. So he's been good against these Braves bats. All that's well and good, but this one comes down to just a simple question. Do you really want to fade this Braves lineup right now, especially against a righty? Here are their numbers against righties in the last 14 days. First, in every single category, they're hitting 300 as a team against righties over the last 14 days. A 965 OPS as a team. Absolutely crazy. So obviously I have to go in Atlanta. I'm a little sketched out about this price. It seems like the odds makers are taking a position here on Tampa, making them favorites. Obviously they know the public's probably going to come in pretty heavy on Atlanta at that price. So I'm probably going to be on a public dog here, but I can't pass up Atlanta plus money, so I have to take it. Next game. Cubs at Yankee Stadium here. Rodon is back. Carlos Rodon making his first start of the season. His first start as a member of the Yankees. He's pitching against former Yankee Jameson Taillon. Interesting pitching matchup here. Yanks open up as solid favorites, -170. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got to lean on the Yanks here. 4-2 Yankees after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 Yankees. So I don't know how much betting value we're going to find in this one. Like I said, Carlos Rodon making his first start of the season, first start as a Yankee. He did definitely look really good in his 3 minor league starts, an 0.84 ERA and an 0.56 WHIP. Now, I'm not going to throw the guy a parade for being dominant in the minor leagues, but still, it's a good sign for Yankees fans. On the other side, we got Jameson Taillon, obviously struggling this season. That's no secret. I'm sure you've heard. I guess if you take a look at his last 7 starts in comparison to his first 7, maybe you could see a bit of improvement. WHIP is down a bit, but overall, I just don't have a ton of faith in this guy on this year as a whole. And the fact that he's pitching against his old team makes this one even more difficult to predict. Not only is it his first time pitching against the Yankees since leaving the team, but it's also his first time ever pitching in Yankee Stadium as a member of the away team. So I don't know if that plays positively or negatively for Jameson Taillon here. I think this is probably a pass for me. I probably lean Cubs at the big plus money price, but Let's say Cubs are passed for now. I'll let you know what I've decided to do for sure on the live show tomorrow at 4 p.m. Next game. Rangers at Nationals. Cody Bradford pitching against Trevor Williams here. Texas opened up as -165 favorites. Total opens up at 10. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got to lean on the Rangers here. 4-2 Texas after 5 innings. Final score 6-3 Texas. So this line literally just opened. I have some notes on the game, but they're not organized, and I didn't make any graphics, so I'm going to skip it for now. When I started recording this, there was no line open and it just opened. So I'll have a pick for this one on the live show at 4 p.m. Next game. Oakland on the road in Boston. A's at Red Sox. Louis Medina pitching against, I guess it's going to be Brandon Walter. A bit of a question mark there as far as who's pitching for Boston. And the line reflects it. We have no line and no total open as I'm recording this. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and this really doesn't mean anything because the model's useless if we don't know who's pitching, but it's 4-1 Boston after 5 innings. Final score 6-3 Boston. I'm gonna have to skip this one too. We don't know who's pitching yet, so I'm gonna wait for the morning to really dive into this one. Next game. Royals at Guardians. Kansas City at Cleveland. Daniel Lynch pitching against Aaron Savale. Cleveland opens up as solid favorites here, as you would expect, -180. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and no lean after 5 innings. Actually, lean on the first 5 under, 1-1 tie. Final score 3-2 Cleveland. So I like Daniel Lynch. If you subscribe to this channel, you've heard me speak positively about Daniel Lynch on a number of occasions. That being said, it's pretty tough to ignore his terrible career numbers against Cleveland. He's made 5 starts lifetime against this team. He's 0-3 with an 8.87 ERA and a 2.06 whip in those starts. The current Cleveland Guardians lineup lifetime, they're hitting .439 off Daniel Lynch with an 11.31 OPS. Yeah. So it's safe to say that this is a pretty terrifying spot for Daniel Lynch. I know if you take a peek at his game logs, it might look like Daniel Lynch has been dealing, and he has been pitching pretty well. On his last 3 starts, he's got an ERA sitting at 2 even and a whip sitting at 1 even, but look at the expected FIP, 571. This is looking like a prime spot to sell high on Daniel Lynch. Cleveland may not have the best looking numbers against left-handed pitching recently. I mean, actually, they're pretty bad. On the last 30 days, they're 24th in WRC+, 19th in isolated power, 26th in WOBA, but still, I think they rock Daniel Lynch here. I know some people aren't the biggest supporters of Savale, but he's been solid recently, man, and he certainly had some success against this Royals lineup. The current Kansas City bats lifetime are hitting just 210 off Savale. Aaron Savale in his last 3 starts versus Cleveland, he's 2-0 with a 2.37 ERA and an 0.78 whip. He's had no problems with this team in recent history, and it's not like Kansas City's been hitting right-handed pitching. It's just as awful as you think it is. In the last 14 days, they're 30th, dead last in WRC+ and OPS. I don't see any reason to doubt Aaron Savale here. Cleveland's got the bullpen edge as well, obviously. I know the Guardians' bullpen has been struggling a little as of late, but it's still significantly better than Kansas City. So give me Cleveland -1.5 again next game. Seattle at Houston. This should be one of the more fun series of the weekend to watch. Luis Castillo pitching against Hunter Brown here. Houston opens up as slight favorites, -115. Total opens up at 7.5. Take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got to lean on the Astros here. 4-2 Astros after 5 innings. Final score 6-4 Astros. Well, it's Luis Castillo, so we got to start off with his home-away splits because those are pretty significant. As we know, Luis Castillo's been much more reliable at home in Seattle this season. His ERA jumps from a 2.44 at home up to a 4.24 on the road. Whip, FIP, there's definitely, I mean, all the numbers, there's definitely a drop-off in production on the road for Castillo. Good news for Seattle, though, is Castillo's got great lifetime numbers against these Houston bats. The Astros' current lineup is hitting just 196 off Castillo with a 539 OPS, so he's handled these guys pretty well throughout his career. But it's not so much Castillo on the road that worries me with Seattle in this spot. It's the bullpen. They've really been struggling recently. In the last 14 days, the Seattle bullpen's 23rd in FIP, 23rd in ERA. They've recently made some roster moves. They traded away Chris Flexen and Trevor Gott to the Mets. So that whole unit, the whole Seattle bullpen, outside of Munoz and Sewald, it's a bit of a question mark at the moment. So I think we could definitely count on Houston to score some runs on Seattle in the second half of this game. Question is, can we trust Hunter Brown? He's been struggling recently in his home starts. In his last 3 starts at home in Houston, he's got a 5.71 ERA with 7 walks. Not really an encouraging sign considering the Seattle bats have been producing a bit against right-handed pitching recently. In the last 14 days, they're 11th in OPS and 10th in WRC+. So I think Seattle's going to get 2 or 3 runs off Hunter Brown here. So as far as betting the game, I like Seattle in the first 5, but I like Houston in the second half of it. So I basically pick them. I like the Astros at home. So I'll probably end up going Houston money line. It won't be one of my bigger bets of the night. I'll let you know what the final decision is on the live show at 4 p.m. next game. Orioles at Twins. Cole Irvin pitching against Bailey Ober. Twins open up as very slight favorites, but this line's moved. Twins are up to -150 now, I believe. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got a pretty heavy lean on Minnesota here. 5-2 Twins after 5 innings. Final score 7-3 Twins. I'm going to skip this one for now. I hate when lineups see a starting pitcher in back-to-back starts, and Bailey Ober's last start was against Baltimore. Cole Irvin's last start was against Minnesota, and I hate capping games like that. So I want to see what the line does. Probably have a pick. I'll give out something maybe on the live show at 4 p.m. As of right now, maybe leaning Baltimore at the plus 135 price, but I'm going to pass. Next, St. Louis at Chicago. Cards at White Sox. Jordan Montgomery pitching against Dylan Cease. Good pitching matchup here. Cardinals open up as slight road favorites here, -115. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got 3-1 Cards after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 Cards. So Jordan Montgomery's been on an absolute warpath recently. Look at his numbers from his last 6 starts. This is since June 1st. He's made 6 starts. He's 4-1 with a 1.41 ERA, 2.79 FIP, 3.45 expected FIP. Montgomery's been absolutely dealing. And it gets even better for Montgomery here. Look at his numbers from his last 4 starts against the White Sox specifically. He's 2-0 with a 2.22 ERA and a 1.19 whip. He's been dominant against this White Sox team. One thing I will say about the White Sox, though, they did smack up the last 2 lefty starters that they saw. Granted, it was Kyle Muller and Patrick Sandoval. Well, Sandoval's somewhat respectable, I guess. Not this year, but those 2 guys combined for 10 innings pitched, an ERA at 9 and a whip at an even 2. And there may be a pattern forming here. Look at the White Sox numbers against lefties in the last 14 days. 13th in WRC+, 11th in on-base percentage, 15th in WOBA. Chicago's lineup has come to life a bit against lefties recently. If you remember, this White Sox lineup was excellent against left-handed pitching last season, so we're beginning to see them return to that form a bit. On the other side, we got Dylan Cease, and there's no denying that his last start was ugly. I mean, he was in Oakland, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 walks, 3 earned runs. Definitely not a good start for Dylan Cease there. But look at his 6 starts before that one. Dylan Cease has been solid. 2.65 ERA, 1.15 whip, 2.82 FIP. Dylan Cease has been pitching really well with the exception of his last start. But is he good enough to stop these Cardinals bats? Because St. Louis lineup has really woken up against right-handed pitching in the last few weeks. In the last 14 days, they're 5th in WRC+, 7th in OPS, 5th in WOBA. Cards bats have been tough for righty starters and lefties too. Cards bats have been tough for anyone. So I like the Cardinals here. That being said, the bullpen scares the shit out of me. You can see here in the last 14 days, the White Sox bullpen has definitely outproduced the Cards. St. Louis is 25th in ERA and 26th in FIP. White Sox 15th and 18th. So White Sox might have the edge in the bullpen department. Really tough to make a decision on this one. I like the Cardinals. I'm not going to bet the White Sox. I'm going to say either Cardinals or over at 8.5. I'll let you know what I end up doing on the live show at 4 p.m. Next game. Cincinnati at Milwaukee. Reds at Brewers. Me and Toast have been talking shit to each other all week for this game. Andrew Abbott, the young gunner, pitching against Corbin Burns. Brewers open up as home favorites here, -130. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we got a lean on Cincinnati here. 3-0 Reds after 5 innings. Final score 5-2 Reds. I'm actually saving this one for the live show. I know Toast is going to take Cincinnati. I'm on Milwaukee, spoilers, but I'm saving my notes for the live show on this one. So if you want to hear my notes for this one, 4 p.m. We'll be live on YouTube next game. Pirates at D-backs. Rich Hill versus Zach Gallen. No lines, no total open yet for this one. Not sure why. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got 2-1 Arizona after 5 innings. Final score 4-2 Arizona. I'm going to skip this one for now. Like I said, no lines open. But if the starting pitchers ended up being Rich Hill versus Zach Gallen, I'm probably going to look to bet Arizona in some way. Prop beaver like Zach Gallen to record a win in this one. I might look Arizona -1.5. The reason prop beaver like Zach Gallen to record a win is the Pirates actually got to Gallen earlier in the year, so it's a bit of a revenge spot for him. So yeah, I'll let you know what we end up doing on the live show 4 p.m. Next game. New York Mets baseball. The Metropolitans, the red hot Mets, are on the road in San Diego to play the Padres. Rematch of the playoff series. We got Verlander versus Yu Darvish. Big names, big pitching matchup. Padres open up as -135 favorites. Total opens up at 8. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we got no lean through 5 innings. We're looking at a 3-3 tie. Final score 6-5 Padres. So a slight lean on San Diego. Also lean on the over. So I don't have a ton of faith in Justin Verlander making a road start here. Here is his numbers on the season on the road. 5.67 ERA, 1.44 whip, 4.74 expected FIP. Definitely not Justin Verlander-like. And it only seems to be getting worse. If you isolate it to just his last 3 road starts, we're talking about an 8.40 ERA, 1.93 whip. I mean, that's straight up awful. Now, the 4.89 expected FIP indicates he's had a bit of bad luck, but still, that's ugly for Verlander. Now for some good news. Justin Verlander has owned these Padres bats lifetime. Through 146 career at bats, San Diego's hitting just 151 lifetime off Verlander with a 458 OPS. Truly terrible. Now, obviously, most of these at-bats are going to come from a younger, much more potent version of Justin Verlander. And look, as I've said before, I don't really trust this Padres lineup against right-handed pitching at all. That being said, the numbers don't lie. They are producing. In the last 14 days, they're third in WRC plus and fourth in OPS. The last 4 righty starters to pitch against the Padres, 21 in the third innings pitched, a 5.91 ERA, and a 2.5 home runs per 9. So they've gotten to the last few righties that they've seen. On the other side, we've got Yu Darvish, and he already pitched against the Mets early in the season, and the Mets got to him. 6 in the third innings, they scored 5 earned runs on Yu Darvish. But look at Yu Darvish's previous 6 starts against the Mets. Before that, he's owned this team. 5-0 with a 1.79 ERA, an 0.69 whip, and a 28.2 strikeout rate. So yeah, the Mets may have gotten to Yu Darvish in April, but before that, they've really struggled with this guy. And the thing with Darvish is if you look at his recent game logs, you might think, wow, Yu Darvish is really struggling. He's got a 7.27 ERA in his last 5 starts, but he's also got a 3.35 expected FIP in his last 5 starts, indicating that he's had some terrible luck, and there should be a positive turn coming for this guy. And keep in mind, we're dealing with Yu Darvish at home, where he's always been more reliable. On the season, he's got a 3.64 ERA and a 3.17 expected FIP at home, which is pretty on par with what we've come to expect from Yu Darvish at home year in and year out. So I think Yu Darvish is fine. I'm not worried about the recent game logs. That being said, the Mets are all the way back. In the last 7 days, they're 9th in WRC plus, 10th in OPS against right-handed pitching, and Fangraphs doesn't update their data until tomorrow morning. Well, I shouldn't say tomorrow morning. They don't update their data for about another 4 or 5 hours. So these numbers aren't even including that 9-0 win over the D-backs that just happened. When we look at the bullpens, it's truly insane to think the Mets would have a bullpen edge over anyone, but believe it or not, they actually might here. I mean, look at the last 14 days. The Mets bullpen has better looking numbers than the Padres bullpen, but look at the expected FIP. Mets at 29th, Padres at 27th. So safe to say, neither of these bullpens can be trusted at all right now. Straight up, I'm riding the hot streak. I kind of like the spot for Yu Darvish, and I think there's a chance he could pitch a good game, but you're getting the Mets. They've won 5 in a row at plus money. I don't really trust the Padres bats like that. So give me the Mets money line, plus 110 next game. Angels at Dodgers. Griffin Canning pitching against Tony Gonsolin. Dodgers open up as heavy favorites here, minus 185. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we have no lean at all here as far as picking a side. We're looking at a 3-3 tie after 5 innings, 9 innings, 5-5 tie. So believe it or not, Griffin Canning actually has good career numbers against the Dodgers. Granted, he's only made 2 starts against them, but he's 1-0 with a 3.09 ERA and a 1.19 whip. And I know his last start was terrible. He gave up 5 runs to the D-backs. I bet the Angels in that game. It was a tough one for me. It was truly embarrassing performance for Griffin Canning. That being said, look at his 6 starts prior to the Arizona game. The 6 starts before that, he had a 2.25 ERA, an 0.89 whip, and a 3.45 expected FIP. This dude has been dealing. I don't know if I'm going to let one bad start against the Diamondbacks deter me from that. He will have his hands full, though, because the Dodgers bats are all the way back. I mean, just like the Mets are back, the Dodgers are back too. The last 7 righty starters to pitch against the Dodgers, 7.88 ERA with a 1.75 whip. So the Dodgers have been smacking around righties, looking like the Dodgers of old. Here are their numbers in the last 14 days, and you can see the Dodgers are back in the top 10 analytically where they belong. 7th in WRC plus, 6th in OPS. On the other side, we got Tony Gonsolin, and through 2 career starts, he's handled this Angels team without a problem. He's 2-0 with a 2.91 ERA and an 0.81 whip, lifetime against the Angels. But Tony Gonsolin just doesn't look like himself recently. Look at his numbers over his last 5 starts. He's got a 6.39 ERA and a 1.42 whip. Those don't look like Tony Gonsolin numbers at all. And it's weird because he started off the season fine. You can see here through his first 7 starts, he had a 1.77 ERA and an 0.90 whip. And if you remember, we were talking on the live show about his expected FIP through those early starts, and I brushed it off. I was like, nah, it's Tony Gonsolin. Let's not get caught up on the numbers. He'll be fine. Turns out that his expected FIP was trying to tell us something. The good news for Gonsolin is the Angels bats. I don't know if they can be trusted right now. Here are their numbers in the last 7 days. They're towards the bottom of baseball against righties, and this is a lineup that's been hitting righties this whole season. 25th in WRC plus, 24th in OPS. Now, to be fair, there were some injuries involved. I mean, we're looking at the last 7 days, and their main bats have missed a couple of those. I think Ohtani and Rendon are going to play. Trout's out, though. Trout's out 4 to 8 weeks, I believe. But still, as a whole, I don't know how much faith I have in the Angels lineup right now. And then when we get to the bullpens, there's no question the Dodgers have the edge here. I've been voicing my concerns with the Angels bullpen for a couple weeks now. Here are their numbers in the last 14 days. 24th in ERA, 20th in expected FIP. Dodgers in those same two categories, 3rd and 9th. So I like the Dodgers here. I just hate the price. They're up at like minus 175. I guess I'll say Dodgers minus 1.5 or pass for now. I'll let you know if I decide to make a bet on this one on the live show at 4 p.m. next game. Last up is Colorado at San Francisco, Rockies at Giants, Austin Gomer pitching against Ross Stripling. I think there's no lines or no total open for this one, so I don't know if those starting pitchers are going to change. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we got a 3-3 tie after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 Giants. So I'm skipping this one for now. Like I said, no line open. The Giants have been doing that thing where they start a guy for 1 inning. I'm assuming Ross Stripling is going to be the primary pitcher, and someone else will start, and Ross Stripling will come in the 2nd or 3rd, I think. But yeah. So when I have more information on that, maybe I'll give out a bet for this one on the live show, but passing for now. If anything changes with any of these bets I just gave in this video, I'll let you know on Twitter, so give me a follow there if you're interested. Also, like I've mentioned a few times, live show, 4 p.m., and it's Friday. It's always the best show. FTP's joining us. Toast will be there. Danny Dirt, it'll be joining the show, give out a total or two. It's going to be a fun one. If you're able to make it at 4 p.m., would love to see you in the comments. Also, if you want the final tickets we give out, which has every single bet I'm making and exactly how much I'm placing on each, my top bets, parlay of the day, that we had a good one too today. And also that comes with the VIP chat, the private Twitter chat that we have. So if you're interested in that, head over to KyleKirms.com. Friday MLB, and we're coming in with some momentum, man. We had a beautiful Thursday. Let's keep the positivity rolling. Remember to bet responsibly, and I will talk to you on Twitter.